Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Tuesday morning edition of Sidelines. Got a lot to talk about today. Full show lineup. Start off with Will Gunter, the game 107.5 over in Columbia, South Carolina. He'll check in with us here shortly, followed by Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal in Savannah. We'll wrap around the SEC even more and ACC. And look, a lot of football. We cover the SEC and your favorite team. We will get into the second hour. Coach Matt Dean over in Memphis and Rodney Orr in the fourth segment, Tider Insider TV tonight. Check it out, 6:30 p.m., Tider Insider TV, Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, okay? So remember, follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live and YouTube channel. You can watch us. Go ahead and subscribe to that channel. That is youtube.com / at Sidelines_live. Okay. Easy to follow. Got it all up here on the banners underneath. Got to say a couple of things about sponsors. Remember, Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas, 45 minutes from Memphis. They deliver anywhere. I'm serious. They will deliver a car, truck, or SUV anywhere you buy it. You can go online. You can do the most everything online on their website. It's very user-friendly. And when you show up to the dealership or you get on the phone, you can get it done in about 20 minutes. And I've seen this happen. That's unusual. That's how good these people are at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Now, Justin Wynn, general manager, texted me some stuff this morning. No payments until 2024 on all vehicles on the lot. Tons of vehicles in stock, okay? Check them out, redriverfordtoyota.com. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm wearing the hat. Look, you can't miss it. I'm wearing the Red River Ford Toyota hat. Let's get over to Columbia right now, bringing Will Gunter. And Will, man, already, here we are going into week 9 or whatever, the college football season. And we got basketball. We had media days for that last week at the Bohemian Hotel in Mountain Brook, the Beverly Hills of the South, but much better people. Anyway, a lot of talk about basketball. So the seasons are, overlapping. And then we got the World Series. It's going to be the Rangers against the Diamondbacks and the Phillies. Unfortunately, not the Braves. But, what you've seen to this point, this is year 3 for Shane Beamer.
Correct. Yep.
Right. And, I just look at them. I thought they would go up there and play their ass off in the Battle of Como. I don't know how good Missouri is, but already got some comments coming in here. I like this guy. What's your grade on South Carolina football? Kind of bring us up to speed where they are, because they don't lack talent, but where are they in trouble?
Well, they do lack talent a little bit. That is something. And then honestly, when your talent gets injured, for example, Juice Wells, who really has only played one play healthy all season, and that was a great catch and run against Georgia, and he scores it. This is the kind of season. This is when, you're just having a questionable season. It's I don't want to say nobody's fault, because there are issues, but Juice Wells has a great catch and run on a 3rd and long against Georgia that scores a touchdown. He kind of hops into the end zone and re-breaks his foot. And has been out ever since the Georgia game, and probably will not play anymore this season because of broken foot. Needs time to heal. He's got a screw in it. And this was a guy that was counted on to be South Carolina's top playmaker at the wide receiver position. Now, Xavier Legette has stepped up and done a tremendous job, but even he got injured and only played 17 snaps against Missouri the other day. And, I think South Carolina is in an interesting position. And I'm going to veer from your question just a tad here for a second, because if you look at the other USC, you look at Southern Cal, South Carolina's top tailback is now their starting tailback in Marshawn Lloyd. One of South Carolina's top playmakers, Jaheim Bell, is now at Florida State. I guess when I say playmakers, I'm referring to last year. So you talk about Marshawn Lloyd, a very good running back out at Southern Cal now. Jaheim Bell, a very good tight end, kind of utility player at Florida State. Then you got Juice Wells, who again has really only been healthy for about 2 or 3 plays all season. Xavier Legette stepped up. But those are big pieces to your team. And then you look at the injury situation, and South Carolina has had 10 offensive linemen injured this year. They lost their starting left tackle in the spring game to a torn ACL that he's just not going to be able. He might be able to come back in late November, is what they're expecting. The right tackle went down 2 weeks into fall camp. Cason Henry, he's been out. So you were out your starting 2 tackles before you got to the North Carolina game, and we saw how that impacted the North Carolina game by giving up 9 sacks.
Yeah.
You make a move that was interesting. You move your starting center, Vershawn Lee, out to right tackle to try and secure that place, and he gets injured against Florida. And now he's out for several weeks. The offensive line was playing its best it had played all season against Florida. It was opening holes, it was running football, it was protecting Spencer Rattler. You feel like, hey, we've done a good job in the bye week. We've made a fix. And there goes your right tackle all of a sudden. And so now you're about your 5th string right tackle at this point. They're playing 2 true offensive linemen on the offensive line. Defensively, you lose your best linebacker in Mo Kaba on the very first play of the game against North Carolina. He tears his ACL again. It's interesting. So injuries are a part. They are a part. It's not an excuse. The problem you have is South Carolina's defense it's gone bye-bye. The scheme.
Yeah.
There is something that's happening. I'm not a football brain enough to know, but there is something that is occurring that smart football coaches know how to pick South Carolina apart. No offense to Graham Mertz or any Florida fans out there, but Graham Mertz, South Carolina made Graham Mertz look like a Heisman candidate 2 weeks ago, allowing him to throw for 423 yards. Corey Schrader on Saturday ran for a career high 100 and whatever yards against South Carolina. There is something in South Carolina's defense that, again, I'm not smart enough to be able to tell you. I'm not a football mind, but there's something there where teams, coaches who get paid lots of money are able to look at that tape and go, oh yeah, we're going to pick that apart in this game. And then South Carolina, again, the injuries to the offensive line have made it hard to hold on to protect Spencer Rattler, and then you're without some playmakers. What grade would I give them? A D+. Probably a D+. I mean, and that's probably still being generous. That's probably still being a bit of a homer. Maybe they're deserving of a D. I don't know. Maybe even an F. There's a combination. It's bad coaching right now. It's injuries and bad coaching equal a 2-5 record.
Yeah, and you look around. I mean, the portal. What's going to happen with the portal? You remember the schools that went heavy in junior college recruiting 20 years ago? You can do it, and it'll work for a while, but ultimately you got to build with high school, because the kids that had problems at one school are going to be the same kids that have problems at the next school and the next school that they transfer to. The one thing I've noticed about sorry people in life is that they're sorry asses wherever they go. You and I can't change them. They got to change from within. And I think what we're seeing, and I'll back you up to make you feel a little bit, just to make you feel even smarter, because you're smart. But this is some information put out about how bad Auburn's mess is. The look at the last 4 recruiting classes for Auburn, 2019, 5th-year seniors. You have 3 starters on defense, 3 backups on offense, and 0 offensive line. Go to the 2020 class for Auburn, 4th-year guys. 0 of them are starters. 2 of them are second-string linebackers. 2 of them are second-string on offense. 1 offensive lineman who's been a career backup. And then the 2021 class, Harsin was introduced or turned loose, or like a pandemic on the Auburn fan base. Christmas Eve of 20. That 21 class, so he didn't even sign anybody until the February class. 1 player from that entire class is still on the roster, and that's running back Jarquez Hunter. And 0 offensive linemen. And then the 2022 class, 2nd year, one starting wide receiver, one starting star hurt, 0 offensive linemen, smattering of second teamers. So 6 of the 22 starters are high school recruits. Cameron Stutz is 7 and a 6th-year, virus guy, maybe 15 of 44 in the 2 deep depth chart. Auburn has one starter and one backup offensive lineman in their 2 deep from the previous 5 recruiting classes. Gus Malzahn and Brian Harsin essentially put Auburn on probation. I'll go a step further. They should both be sued for coaching malpractice, and Auburn should claw back the $36.5 million they pissed away to get rid of these clowns, these charlatans. Because you know what? Out-of-state tuition in Auburn, it ain't cheap. Everything costs. You look at Carolina fans. Think about them, just like everybody else. You're being asked to buy season tickets. You're being asked to pay more for premium seats. And then now you're being asked for NIL. It's like your kid. I already gave you your allowance. You live here under my roof. What more do I need to do for you? I think you got the same problem at South Carolina.
Yeah. I look, there's, we could spend days on this topic and go around. The truth is, if you go back to the end of the Will Muschamp era and the start of the Shane Beamer era, there's multiple issues there. Number one is Will Muschamp didn't have many commitments. That last Will Muschamp class, he was coming off a 4-10 season, or 4-8 season. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
4-8. You also had the COVID restrictions, which cost Will Muschamp what he was good at, which was getting guys into the program, getting guys, in for junior days and senior days, whatever, in the spring. That particular class was not going well. I don't even think the guys that decommitted, to be honest with you, have gone on to do much at other schools. I take one, Ra Thomas. Ra Thomas went to Mississippi State and is now at Georgia. Went on to do, but then you get Muschamp fired, and then Shane Beamer, and I think this is interesting that Shane Beamer then comes in, is only able to sign 7 high school recruits. And you're right, that class should be the foundation of what you're working with now.
Correct.
The other part of that is when Will Muschamp was fired, you had a complete exodus of recruits. And I understand why. I don't think recruits commit to a school; they commit to a coach. I'm perfectly okay with that. And what you had was a complete exodus. You had Jamie Robinson go to Florida State and have a good career. Johnny Dixon, another defensive back, is up at Penn State and played pretty well this week. Or played good enough, I guess. Thankfully, he didn't have to line up with Marvin Harrison too many times. But the bottom line is you didn't sign a recruiting class, and this is kind of what you're going to. You didn't sign a recruiting class, and then you had an exodus of transfers, and that's why what you see now is with this COVID and with transfers, you see the NCAA saying, all right, we don't have a 25 recruiting class cap. Sign as many as you want. If you sign 50, you sign 50. It's just by August 1st, you've got to be at your 85-man scholarship limit, however you want to arrive at it. If you want to take 75 high school recruits and get rid of your 75 players, hey, it's the Deion Sanders method. Bring in as many as you want, figure out how you're going to run your roster. And you're watching Georgia. Look at Georgia's recruiting class right now. They've taken like 15 defensive linemen right now. It's crazy. They took every defensive lineman South Carolina wanted. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen. But anyway, that's a problem. But as a coach, you have to know how to navigate the transfer portal. And Florida State and Mike Norvell have done a fantastic job of it. They've got 17 transfers in there. Keon Coleman's really good. Jordan Travis obviously is a transfer. I mentioned Jaheim Bell. South Carolina lost a defensive end, Gilbert Edmond, to Florida State. Florida State went out. Jared Verse is a transfer. Florida State and Mike Norvell have handled it exceptionally well. And then I think to your point, you talk about not taking as many transfers. Dabo Swinney at Clemson believes in, hey, we're gonna do player development. Well, player development has them at 4-3 right now, and potentially on the verge of a 7-5 or even 6-6 season. I think you got to be very careful with the player development route, because of the fact you can develop a player for 1 or 2 years, and unless you're Alabama or Georgia or maybe Southern Cal, I don't know, maybe a few other programs, Michigan, Ohio State. If you're a South Carolina, if you're a few other schools, if you develop a player for 2 years, 3 years, and you think, man, This guy's finally ready to explode, is ready to break out. And then you get to the offseason and that guy goes, hey, I want in more NIL money, or I want to go play at a bigger program. There's no guarantee that player development, that guy's going to stick around and hang with your program. He might say, I've seen enough. I'm going somewhere else where I can get more attention.
Well, I'm not saying you can't go to the portal. You just got to be, you've got to vet these guys. You got to know about them, because it's like in junior college. It's the same deal. Guy goes to junior college typically because he had problems in the classroom or off the field or all of the above. Got to be careful with that. Now you're breaking it down, Will. And this just, another question here. Ed in Columbus, Georgia on the Chattahoochee. By the way, class 4, they even have a class 5 rapid, Will, if you like whitewater rafting, Columbus, Georgia, downtown. They blew the dam out about 12 years ago. And now there's Indigo hotels, really high-end condos, Marriott's and stuff on Phoenix City and Columbus side. But anyway, he lives in Columbus, Georgia, also home of Fort Benning, home of the infantry. The SEC West will be decided in Tuscaloosa when LSU comes to play. Not going to be surprised at that. What South Carolina has to do is, I guess what everybody does, is get the best high school players you can. And when you're taking these guys from group of 5 schools and bringing them up to Power 5, I don't think it works as well as you got to go Power 5 to Power 5, and you got to limit it, because ultimately, do you have a locker room full of guys that'll fight to the death for each other, or a bunch of guys who were just checking their bank statements to see how their NIL deal's doing?
Well, I think we're all learning excuse me, I'm going to fall apart here. I think we're all learning how you handle the transfer portal. This is my opinion. This is based on, today is October 24th and it's 9:17. In an hour, it may change. But I think right now, unless you can go get a Keon Coleman, you probably, honestly, the transfer portal, going back to what you just said, is probably best used for your starting quarterback. If you can't land an elite 5-star quarterback, big time quarterback, you probably look around, and I'll give Georgia's the perfect example right now. You've got Carson Beck, who's having a good enough year. Behind him, you've got 5-star Brock Vandergriff. Behind him, you've got 5-star Gunter Stockton. And oh, by the way, you've got the number 1, or I don't know, depending on which recruiting service you want to use, a 5-star quarterback and Dylan Raiola coming in next year. Only one quarterback can play, unless you're South Carolina, who recruits these quarterbacks, and then you've got DeCarrion Joyner playing running back and Luke Doty playing wide receiver. South Carolina's become famous now for, I think, recruiting quarterbacks that can't play quarterback and you move them to other positions. But my point is, if you want an elite quarterback and you can't get one, you might want to stay in the transfer portal and see if you can get a Brock Vandergriff or a Gunter Stockton, and you can say that at a number of different schools. But I'll say this. I think if a player understands, and this goes to your vetting system, if a player understands their role, you're adding a player from a non-Power 5 school or lower level that can come in and provide you depth. That's what they are. And then if you need an impact player, you're right. Maybe you look around and you say, okay, who is a 4 or 5-star player that maybe just needs some more coaching, maybe just needs an opportunity? Can they come in and be a starter for us? That's kind of my assessment right now. South Carolina took Jerron Willis, a young linebacker from Mississippi last year, and he is up here, and he's trying to find his way in a linebacker room that really needs help and athleticism, and he can't get on the field. So you've picked a Power 5 guy who maybe he's just not a Power 5 guy. Maybe he's just not good enough. Maybe he was overrated and recruited. That happens.
Well, I mean, recruiting is such an inexact process. And I'm sitting here getting a ton of questions coming in for you, and just people wanting to comment on this thing. I appreciate all of our listeners and viewers, but you got to develop the players. It's the old analogy that I use of grocery shopping. You got Fresh Market in Columbia, probably that's your high-end store. And if you go get the most expensive chicken, fish, beef, and you take it home, and right now it's going to be 85 here in Memphis today, and you leave it in the trunk for a week, it's going to go bad. If you go inside and you've got Gordon Ramsay or Wolfgang Puck or Chef Roger Watson doing, cooking the food, it's probably going to be, that's food development. Right now, you've got the old, one-eyed army cook in there developing the players at a lot of the schools. If you can't develop them, you got to get rid of those coaches. They can't just be great recruiters. They got to be both.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And and again, I'll go to this right now. South Carolina, I mentioned coaching is bad, and that's a great point. And when South Carolina was at its absolute best under Steve Spurrier, absolute best, you had a good mixture of recruiters, but along the defensive line, you probably had the best defensive line coach in the country, and Brad Lawing, who was incredible. You had actually a very good secondary coach in Lorenzo Ward. Again, you had a guy who hated to recruit. He would only recruit one area, but Ellis Johnson, old grizzled Ellis Johnson, you need that guy. And my co-host Preston Thorne played football for South Carolina, and he's made a good point. Every coaching staff needs the old crotchety coach, the old guy that just doesn't agree with anything. He's just grizzled. He's never in a good mood. He doesn't want to go home to his family. His wife doesn't like him because he's just angry all the time. That's your coach that is kind of the voice of reason, right? He's not the yes man. But he's a good at developing talent. Doesn't want to go recruit because he doesn't want to deal with the handlers and with the young kids and with Twitter. You got to have one or two of those guys.
You do. You've got to have. I'm going to tell you what you hear about coaching staffs. You get a lot of young assistant coaches who sit on their hands in the meetings when the coaches say, I need input. I need everybody to be honest. Don't be afraid. Well, they're scared. They don't want to lose those damn jobs. You've got two kinds of people that you will have around you in life. You will have people that say, I want to be friends with Will Gunter. He's got a statewide radio show all over South Carolina. He's got a 38-foot Sea Ray. He goes out fishing every weekend. He's got a huge house down in Bluffton in the Low Country. He's making millions. I want to be his friend. You'll sign off on every bad thing that Will says because you want to be his friend. Then you got a guy that said, Will, I wouldn't invest in this company because I've watched their market just decline every year sequentially. I wouldn't touch it. That's a truth broker. You don't have enough of those in coaches' meetings from what I hear from anonymous places and whatever. You got to have – I'll tell you one thing. We have Coach Philip Lawley on this show a lot, who coached at Auburn for 10 years with Tommy Tuberville, 4 years with Chiswick, 3 years with Gus, went to the CFL back. Great career in Alabama high school football. Grew up Choctaw, Alabama, one of 12 kids. Said, when I go recruit a kid, I'll look at things like these kids that grow up out in the country. They got to get up at 5 a.m. and go start a fire, a wood burning fire, because they're so, they live out in the country. And that kid does it and never complains and always comes through. I want that kid on our football team. You've got to lobby as an assistant coach to the head coach more than people realize. And Shane Beamer, I love that guy because his father. I mean, my brother-in-law played for Virginia Tech. I was there in Roanoke. I was working in Washington in 1987 when they hired him. I mean, I am a huge Frank Beamer fan and also of Shane Beamer. And I don't understand, and I like this with the interweb, Billy in Athens, Georgia, with Clemson sliding backwards. Now's the time for USC, South Carolina, to take advantage of the opportunity. But you've got a guy, if Shane Beamer's one of the most gregarious personalities and just positive people, he'd be fun to play for. I don't know much about that staff compared to what grade them.
I mean, actually, this has been a point of discussion. You got Dow Loggins, who I think is doing a good job, by the way. It's a whole nother discussion offensively. But he'd never called plays at the college level, and it is different. The hash marks are different. The amount of time spent in the NFL that you get to implement game plans is different. It's not a 20-hour limit. But if you go with him, but I think he's been good this year. Lonnie Teasley's the offensive line coach. He's been around a long time. Still a young guy, still relatively young. He's just, he's been a career coaching guy, but not a whole lot of no head offensive line coach at a Power 5 school. Jody Wright is another NFL guy that's coaching tight ends, and Justin Stepp is maybe your most proven coach on the offensive side at wide receiver. Spent some time out there at Arkansas. with Sam Pittman, and he's been around at a few other places. Defensively, again, Travian Robertson did play the defense. He's the interior defensive line coach at South Carolina. Is a up and comer. I think it's a good thing he has a connection, having played at South Carolina for the Gamecocks. I'm not sure they would have been able to get him. I think he will be a very good defensive line coach in time. Sterling Lucas had coached with the Jacksonville Jaguars and had never coached the college game, but he was from Orangeburg, South Carolina, was a very good linebacker for North Carolina State, but again, had never coached the college level. Clayton White is the defensive coordinator. He came from Western Kentucky. A younger guy that, right now in terms of scheme, might be a great coach, but I'll tell you what, in terms of scheme and play calling is really struggling. And then your secondary coach is Torian Gray, who you're probably familiar with, was up at Virginia Tech with Shane Beamer, with Frank Beamer, and then was at Florida with Dan Mullen, and Dan Mullen. And so, they've got some guys, but man, it's a situation. I think you need. And then you got special teams coach. They have a dedicated special teams coach, which is supposed to be the old grizzled guy. And that's Pete Limbo, and he's a great coach, and they need to keep him. Special teams has not been good for South Carolina this year, but for the previous 2 seasons, it's been good. But I still think you've got to find again that guy who's got that can of dip in his lip, and he's out there at practice, and he's just ornery and angry, and maybe he'll be your friend away from the field, but you've got to have some grizzled. I think in the SEC, you got to have some guys who have been in this conference who understand what you're going against on a daily basis.
Yeah, you have to understand too that the coach that gets fired was fired because he created a mess. Okay, it starts top down. So the new coach comes in. You cannot panic when they don't start winning immediately, but they've got to show fight. Is that a signature win over somebody big? You like that, but they got to show fight. Wouldn't you agree that going forward, that the trend, it's just like the stock market, and I look at these things every day. You look at trends, you look at 200-day moving averages, you look at dips. We call it a dead cat bounce. Stock's going up, and then it's going down, and then boom, it pops back up. Maybe that's some shorts covering. I'm getting into some market minutia, but still, South Carolina, you got a freaking awesome job, what you do over there every day, talking statewide in the Palmetto State. And where are y'all now? Are y'all adding some more stations? Are y'all looking to?
We're in Florence and Myrtle Beach, and there'll probably be in the next 10 months one more to brag about and talk about. But
in Columbia,
we're doing well.
Yeah. And when I was at Media Days in Nashville, y'all had a table out there on Radio Row. There was another guy that does an afternoon show. Who was that?
We had all 3 shows out there. We had the of course I'm an hour ahead of you, but we had a noon to 3 show, Jay Phillips, and then we had
that's it,
local time 3 to 6 with Heath Klein.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got Preston Thorne, who played for South Carolina, with you.
Correct.
Yeah, it's just like, and I hope you can stay on. Ben Troupe will be on with us in a few about 2 minutes or 3 minutes. But because you play doesn't make you smart. But when you get a guy that plays that is smart, isn't it a lot of fun having him on the show with you? It's like flying with a pilot.
Yeah, obviously to get there. So this morning we had Perry Orthone, who's a former Gamecock quarterback and could break down. He's actually a offensive coordinator now for a very successful high school team here in the Midlands, and is doing really well. And it was good to hear him break down the development that he has seen from Spencer Rattler in terms of mechanics, in terms of pure mechanics, footwork, and release point, and why he thinks Spencer Rattler is playing better. And Preston's the same thing. Preston can weigh in on both the good and the bad, because Preston played for Lou Holtz when South Carolina had that resurgence in 2000 and 2001, under Lou, winning 8 games in 2000, coming off of an 0-11, and then winning 9 games in 2001. But he also saw the worst part of it. There was 2 back-to-back years. They were 5-2 and appeared heading to a very good season, only to lose 5 straight and finish 5-7. So Preston's got a lot of experience on that, understands it, and can really talk about it. And I enjoy that, because that's obviously something that I'm not able to do.
Yeah. All right, look, I got Ben Troupe on here with us right now, and stay on with us. I'm going to tell you something. For everybody out there, if you're a South Carolina fan, you need to be following what Will Gunter does, but he also has his pulse on basketball for the Gamecocks, knows the SEC, the ACC. I strongly recommend you follow him, social media, and listen to his show. And if he's got an app, put it on. My phone's covered in all these apps. You know why? Because I love to go listen to what the local people are saying. You know, when I go down to Orange Beach, which I love to go down there, and I get to go down there. I was just down there in September. You know what? Find out where do the local people eat seafood. You know, in Orange Beach, they love Doc's seafood, man. On the way back to Memphis last month, I picked up a quart of Doc's frozen gumbo, brought it back to my parents, although they were out of crab meat at Lartigue's, but you got to find out what the local people are saying. Ben's over at ESPN Coastal in Savannah. And Will, if you can hang on, we'd love for you to. We're going to take
I got about 15 minutes. Is that good?
Okay, good. Okay,
Yep.
We're going to hang on. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back because we got a lot to cover, and we've got an hour and a half to do it. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Let's get going here. Ben, we got the missing man formation right there in the chair, the step away during the commercial. But, we've been talking a lot about what's going on with South Carolina, going on with every team. Player development is so key. We talked about, I threw in there, Auburn has 6 players in their last 4 recruiting classes that are starters on the team now. And there's only 1 player left from Harson's first recruiting class in February of 21, and that's Jarquez Hunter. And after the kind of, I'm not even going to get into it, what he was subjected to in the offseason, and you know damn well what I'm talking about. I can't stand that kind of stuff. And I mean, not going to say anything other than the fact that, cell phones and cameras, we didn't have that stuff when we were kids. And people can be destroyed. And I hate that. He missed working out all summer with his teammates. You know the importance of that bonding. I know he worked out with Brad Lester, who went to Parkview High School over in Lilburn, Georgia. And I've been corresponding with Brad, trying to get him on the show. I don't know if you know Brad, but he's working with all these top-notch running backs. His schedule's crazy with what we do and the time and everything. But, Will, we're talking about this player development issue. And, Ben, you're a perfect example of it. You got down to Florida. How old were you when you showed up? 17, or had you turned 18?
No, I was 17. I hadn't turned 18 yet.
You had not turned – you were 17, and you were a freshman at the University of Florida. Will, when I was 17, I was holy cow. I know I was still in high school. I think I was a junior.
I was late. I was late. I turned 18 in May, so I was wrapping up high school when I turned 18. And then went to college as an 18-year-old.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a July birthday. So yeah. So Ben, kind of talk about what that's like when you get to campus, and everybody suddenly can say, yeah, I was the best player on my team or the best player in my state. Suddenly you got to separate yourself, don't you?
Yeah, it's a culture shock. It really, really is. And I think the thing about it is, you mentioned in player development, it might be the hardest thing to do in college because college football is the creme de la creme. And these coaches, the reason why they got these gigantic staffs, they try to give somebody, they trying to almost give a coach per player these days because it's so hard to do. But man, look, when I'm coming out, I mean, Coach Pugh, who's the head coach of South Carolina State, he was at South Carolina until he drove to my house in Augusta, drove me back, and I get on, and when Lou Holtz was there at South Carolina, and I think the thing is, when people say, hey man, did you pick Florida over South Carolina over Georgia? No, I didn't pick a team over a team. I had the best options on the freaking planet, and so I couldn't make a wrong. Lou Holtz sat right in front of me at a South Carolina basketball game, talking to me, and I'm saying to myself, just don't say nothing. I'm 17, don't say nothing stupid, to Lou Holtz, right? And I think the thing about it is now is with so much more accessibility to these players, people talk. I get it. It's about wins and losses. That is the bottom line. I'm never negating that. But these moms are sending these young boys down there to become young men for real. Like, they understand the game. Daddy want him to become the next great whatever he's going to become. Mom is thinking about the rest of his life. So player development is huge. And I think the thing now is it's great that you got, Ronald McDonald House and Habitat for Humanity and Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's great when you do those things, but that's almost built in now. That's like a part of, coming to these schools. These players come out of college, either college and squeeze everything they got out of them, or they've learned to soak some of the stuff up, because college is the only place you're going to make it to the NFL, and it's the first place you realize you ain't going. And you realize that real quick. Like, you get on campus, you say, Titus O'Neil, his real name is Thaddeus Bullard. He played with me at Florida. WWE superstar. He looked like that 20-something years ago. And guess what? He wasn't going pro. He looked like he looks now. So I'm 17 looking at that, saying, am I gonna look like that? No. But that's the culture shock. We get out there on the field the very first day. I'll never forget it. They made the freshmen go in. We get to our very first workout. It was nothing but trash cans in the locker room. We're like, what are all these trash cans for? They were like, you gonna see. I never threw up that much in my life. I ain't even eat nothing. I'm like, where? I'm throwing up, liver and all this. We get out there on the field, and Thaddeus Bullard, who's Titus O'Neil now, he literally looks like a WWE superstar. He got on some tights, and that's it. That's it. I mean, glazed, I don't know if you're bored up, but they're trying. But now I'm looking at him thinking, dang, I want to look like that. And this is nothing against Thad. Then we get out there on the field, and he don't play. So that's confusing to me. I'm like, because he, and I love Thad. But the thing about it is when I go to South Carolina, the first person I met was Kalimba Edwards. I remember Kalimba Edwards to this day. I get on Kalimba Edwards. He kind of looking at me like this till I said, "Man, I play tight end." He go, "Oh, okay." He thought I played D end. When I said tight end, he but that's what I'm saying. You meet some freak. Listen, the reason why they let players be the host of other players, they try to let you know player development starts first with how you look. The best thing you can do is if I walk in the room but don't say nothing. And because when they walking in, and my parents sitting there with me, I'm like, who the hell is that? Oh, he's 19 and I'm 18. He's a year older than me. Yes. No, he's not. And I think the thing about it is now looking back on it, I played with Kalimba when I was with the Raiders, and we just laughed. Like he said, Troupe, I remember you came. I said, dude, you was kind of giving me the deep voice, and he said, cuz man, I had to let you know. I said, well, it's two defensive ends, right? This is what he said. I am the defensive end. And to me, that's so the player development part has to be something you really want to do.
Do you remember when you're about the same age? You're the same age about as my co-host Preston Thorne, who played defensive line at South Carolina, was from Summerville, and he always talks about playing in the Shrine Bowl game against the guy you played against, Greg Jones.
Yes.
He said they went up to the Shrine Bowl, in about 2000. He said they're all in the locker room, and Greg Jones, who went to play, takes his shirt off, and they all look.
That's not real. Greg Jones. You know how like back in the day, the WWE characters, they make him look, they look ripped up. That's how he really. It's like that's what I'm saying. Like Greg Jones is the type of dude you try to get to the locker room and get showered in before he. I don't want to see all that. Because number one, I'm thinking we live in the same ways, right? Yeah, but something ain't. And I worked out with Greg Jones. We was coming out for the draft back in 2003, 2004, and the guy Dexter Reed, who played at North Carolina, the Dexter Reed, the one that got hit. Just type in Greg Jones, Dexter Reed. You're gonna see what I'm talking about.
Yep. Greg faked him out and then plowed him.
Oh my God, we sitting there eating some crawfish or something. It's me and Chris Perry from Michigan and Batman Carroll from freaking Arkansas. It's a bunch of guys down there, Mike. And we've gotten used to each other down there with Tom Shaw. And Dexter Reed walks in. He's wearing like a North Carolina shirt. So they asked him, they said, "Man, where you from, man?" He said, "Oh, my name is Dexter Reed. You know, I played in North Carolina." And the Batman Carroll goes, "What you mean? You played DB in North Carolina?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Wait a minute. Are you the Dexter Reed that went up against Greg Jones?" You cannot. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "There go Greg." Greg was sitting over there, and when Greg looked at Dexter, he didn't say a word, and we just bust out laughing because football is humbling like that. Because when Greg Jones, we was out there working out, and somebody we doing like some type of drill, or somebody kind of hit him in the face. It just happens. Everything stopped. I'm talking about everybody. Whoa. Because mind you, ain't nobody finna grab Greg. Nobody. The Rock ain't touching Greg Jones. You're not touching him. If you've ever seen Greg Jones, it's almost unfair showing him to other people. Nobody looks like that. Greg Jones is like when Vernon Davis played tight end. He kind of looked like that. I said, "Greg, listen, bro, I'm not going to the pool with you. Why? I lift weights and I look like I lift weights. You're like a Greek god that plays. It was freakish, but that's college football as a whole is. I don't want to go to South Carolina because the greatest thing since Jadeveon Clowney, where they had John Abraham, he was pretty good, right? Yeah. But you only gonna get compared to the greatest that ever did it, like ever. And the player development part is when I leave Florida, South Carolina, do I know how to use resources? Because player development is how do I they call them firm handshakes. How do I make sure that handshake ain't just when I was a player? Because once I realize if I go to South Carolina, I don't care if I'm not from there or not. Columbia or Greenville or Spartanburg, that's going to be where I'm going to live the rest of my life. Because all I got to do is walk in and say, "Hey, man, I played for the Gamecocks." What? If that can't get me a gig, it's going to be a really, really hard sell.
Yeah, and we'll, along that line, see, that's what I keep saying is NIL. I mean, you stick it out, whether you're a star, and Ben talks a lot about scout team guys, how they made him better. And that's when you get in that football mind, the guys that have to fight for every scrap, kind of like the smallest dog in the litter. Sometimes they're the best guys you got, Will.
Yeah, NIL, I'm watching it with South Carolina. They got two players right now, two former quarterbacks that I've actually already mentioned. DeCarrion Joyner is a guy that came up here as a 4-star quarterback out of Fort Dorchester and has had some nice moments. Obviously won him a bowl game against North Carolina back in 2021. But they haven't found a position for him. And you know what? DeCarrion Joyner was a big part in 2019 of South Carolina going over and beating, I think, then number 3 Georgia in Athens, a 25-point underdog. And DeCarrion Joyner had to step in and play. He played that game against North Carolina, Shane Beamer's first year at quarterback. And DeCarrion Joyner could have looked around and said, "Hey, I'm a quarterback or I'm transferring. You're not going to put me at wide receiver. You're not going to put me at running back. I'm a quarterback or I'm transferring." And he stayed around. And a perfect story, NIL, this offseason, him and his girlfriend had a baby, and South Carolina fans, he had a picture of it on his front door. South Carolina fans had sent a bunch of baby Amazon packages to his front door. And I don't think DeCarrion's going to go have an NFL career. But I tell you what, when this football season ends in December and he has to go into the workforce, as Ben just said, he's going to be able to walk into any place in here as long as I get probably a Gamecock-owned business and say, and they're going to go, "Yes, sir. Come on right over here. What do you want to do? You want insurance? You want to run?" Yeah. And that's when, and Luke Doty, the quarterback out of Myrtle Beach, who now is being moved around similar, is probably going to get beat out by Lenore Sellers. He's sticking around and he could go do things. And you're right. And Ben's right. But in NIL in this day and age, it's easy for a player to take off and leave. And we'll see. South Carolina just had a 5-star defensive end, Jordan Birch, who was here for 3 years. Yeah. And he's transferred out to Oregon now. Is he going to be able to come back? He's from right here in Columbia. Who are you going to, if you get drafted and you're on Monday Night Football, what school are you going to say? Are you going to say, University? Are you going to say University of Oregon? What's Spencer Rattler going to say? Now, I will say this town will embrace you. This is a college town. You know, much like Gainesville. Now, Gainesville, you still had the Jags. You know, you got the Dolphins down there. But this state, there ain't a whole bunch of people up there thrilled with the Panthers. The Panthers are what the Panthers are. But you come here and you're successful, you're set. You are set for life.
Well, let me say this too. You think about it. I mean, you know, I've married, I've remarried. I've got 3 kids now. I've got the 4th, Mallory, that went to Alabama. We love her. But, you know, you stick it out. You got kids. Think about that example. I mean, you walk out and leave them because times are tough and just disappear. No, you got to hang in there. People go through rough patches in their lives. I mean, we all know people who've been through hell. I mean, some people have been in jail, been in prison. That's okay. I mean, pay your dues and get back out and live your life. But you remember the people that stuck with you and that you stuck with during the worst of times. I mean, there ain't a day that goes by that I don't talk to the friends I went to high school with, that I grew up with, and the folks I went to Auburn with. Man, just stuff we went through as freshmen alone. And the people that pushed us in ways that we needed to be pushed, and we didn't quit. We hung in there and we fought. That right there. You can reach out to those people every day. If you need something or they need something, they come to you. You've got a common bond. And that is, I've seen that guy under adversity, under pressure, and he didn't quit. Like Ben knows as a teammate. I'm out there at tight end, left or right side, whatever, that left tackle, right tackle out there. I got to trust that guy. I mean, you know, you ever flown or how about flying on a private plane, you know, a Citation or a Challenger, a Falcon 900? You better trust those pilots. You better trust everybody that they're, hey, go out there to jump school at Fort Benning at Lawson Airfield. There are 47 checkpoints on those chutes for jump school. You better hope and pray that people packing your chute are responsible. You know what? Your honor is dearer than your life. It matters, Ben. You know that. And you know that, Will. Both of y'all are dead ass right. Jordan Birch, I don't wish him ill will. He comes back to Columbia. Hey, man, we could have used you. Sorry, but I mean, I'm just saying, I'm big on loyalty. I'm not being stupid.
Ben knows this is a former player. You might not wish him ill will. There's some fans around here. Fans short for Fanata. There's some fans around here.
They wouldn't be fans if they didn't. But I will say this about the NIL. I mean, I will say this about the transferring. What people need to stop thinking is quarterbacks, they're the exception to the rule. Everybody want one of them, right? You got 3 and 4, 5 stars in one room, but people be thinking, hey, man, the most attractive I'm ever going to be is when I'm coming out. I'm not going to be as attractive once I'm in. Now, there's somebody that's going to, the same coach that told me we want you will say that again, but now it's different because, you know, people keep looking at Colorado saying, all right, yeah, you're going to get a whole bunch of transfer guys, but when I'm on a team, and no matter what, I want to win and lose with the guys I came with. Because what people don't talk about, it's devastating when one of your teammates leave, especially if y'all was real close. And you wish them the best. But y'all might want to go look at that transfer portal. You know how many guys still in? People ain't coming out there like it looks like. Oh, and it's growing every year. People like, oh man, I was a 5-star recruit. You were. Yeah. You're not that anymore. And it's easy for me to say that now, but for people that think it's easy for me to say that, I started 1 year in college. Right. I went through 2 different coaches. And so I know what it's like to, and transferring back then ain't like it is now. But I be looking at guys saying, look, man, I wish you the best. But then what happens when you go to the new school and don't work out? Remember JT Daniels, like JT Daniels, and not to pick on JT Daniels, USC, Georgia, West Virginia, and I think he's somewhere else now. He's at Rice. He's at Rice. Right. So, but the difference was he's a quarterback. Everybody wants a quarterback, whether it's college, high school, pro, Pop Warner. But the problem with that is what's going to happen when he go to the combine? They saying, hey, man, talk to us about dealing with adversity. That's a trick question they asking him. But I wish these guys nothing but the best. But I think the biggest thing that people need to understand is there are no guarantees once you sign that national letter of intent. Everybody's great. I played with Chris Leak my senior year, his freshman year. You can't have better stats than that coming out of high school. And he didn't start as a true freshman. It was Ingle Martin. Then, you look at a guy, like Spencer Rattler. This boy was on Netflix.
Yep.
Netflix when in high school. Obviously it didn't work out at Oklahoma. He comes over to the South Carolina. I'm just saying, when I watch Spencer Rattler, I see a guy that understands this. I got to be the best teammate I can for South Carolina, regardless of wins and losses, because them narratives that come out about you, true or false, they stick. Whether they true or not, they stick. And he goes, hey, Coach Shane Beamer, man, you got to help me, bro. Why? Because I can't say anything about the critics because that's gonna make me look like I'm a. But then I got to let my play do the talking. And like I said, when it comes to making a throw, Spencer Rattler can make any throw. There isn't a throw out there in the world he can't make. But they're looking at who he is as a person, which that's the part I think is unfair to him. But as you guys know, when you were starting quarterback in big-time college football, a.k.a. South Carolina, no one cares. Because, you watch every single weekend. So,
the way they're performing, he's getting a chance he's changed that narrative. And he's been really good. And you're right that, your kids are put in places that you never were, with documentaries, with film crews. You even go back to, what was the very first one? The Last Chance U.
Yeah.
And seeing that stuff, and then kids come out and look, man, nobody likes let's be honest, television, nobody likes the good, sweet guy. You want to see the guy that's like, we want to see Varsity Blues, right?
Yeah.
You want to see the guy who's making all the great plays, but then's going to the wild party and dancing around with the pot on his head, or, having sex on the washing machine, whatever. You want to see the wild guy. And Spencer got caught up in that. And unfortunately, some things happened at Oklahoma. He's had a great opportunity to kind of revisit that narrative. And this coming off season, as you just mentioned, he's going to go to the combine, and they're going to talk about it. And I'll tell you, Spencer Rattler is going to, if things continue progressing the way they are, to your point, Spencer Rattler is going to be put through more adversity, because when you're 2-5, they're 2-5 right now. You lose to Texas A&M this weekend. You're 2-6, and people are going to go, well, you got your livelihood over here. You keep playing this game, man. You're taking a risk, and if he keeps playing, and let's just say they finish 3-9, 4-8, very possible. I think that helps at the combine. They go, you stuck with your team. You faced the adversity. You're a team guy. You didn't let them down when you easily could have just said, hey, look, I'm opting out. It's going to be interesting to follow him the rest of the year, because that is, you just saw it. You're a guy. You're a player. You're an athlete. You just saw the guy, I think it's out in California, who stopped playing high school football to focus on quit on his high school. This isn't college where you've known these guys 3 or 4 years. This is guys you've grown up with.
Yeah.
You've known since first grade. And he quit playing his senior year to focus on getting ready for college.
Look, I got criticized, I don't know, a year and a half ago. A guy named Jaden Blue out in Texas. He was a 5-star running back who had committed to Texas. He put out on social media, after serious thought and consulting with, coaches and friends and blah, 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 I've decided to forego my senior year of high school. And I was like, come on, man. Then he's going to get to college and he's going to quit on his teammates. Then I would have pulled his scholarship. You have got, think about this. Somebody goes through hell. Everybody goes through the ringer. Okay. And I wish the decorum would allow me to play the speech from Kevin Steele in the locker room before an Auburn game a few years ago about adversity. It's the best speech about adversity, and it's not long, but it's, don't wait for to land in your lap. You be their adversity in a mild term. I love that. I don't care where Kevin Steele coaches. I will always love that guy. I think he's a hell of a coach. I told people in Alabama, we'll talk to Rodney Orr in the next hour. He'll win because he'll make everybody around him better. And Ben, I'm glad Einstein didn't hit the portal. Wasn't he sent home from school? Quote, he's too dumb to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, that's bad. That they missed on that one. But both of y'all, this is a knockout conversation. Both of you are getting it. I mean, I'm seeing it here in Memphis. I love going to 25, 30 Grizzlies games a year. John Morant, I don't wish that kid bad. Use your damn head, man. You don't look. I'm over here at the cherry farm. We got enough, we got an arsenal, but we hunt and fish. We're responsible. But we could take out a small country probably, but we don't do that. He needs to use his head, and a lot about him, Will, from being in South Carolina. Everybody in Memphis loves this kid. One thing you find out when you get a professional team in your town is you look at the Tridelt house, you look at the Grizzlies house, you look at the Ronald McDonald house across the street from St. Jude. These professional athletes are some of the most generous, caring people you will ever see in your life. Fans fall in love with these pro teams. And the colleges, that's another level. Both of y'all are dead ass right. JT Daniels stands for just transfer. Okay. So Southern Cal, Georgia, was it West Virginia or Pittsburgh last year? And now Rice.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's JT Daniels going to do when he gets a job if he doesn't make it in the NFL? And let's say he goes into accounting, and the night before April 15th, the boss, which a lot of accounting firms will do, dumps the big suitcase full of a client of theirs who saves every receipt, and they're all covered in food and barbecue sauce and all from everywhere he goes, and you got to get his taxes done that night. Is he going to quit?
I mean, you hope not. Yeah, you hope not. But it's
you better.
I think the thing is too. The one thing I've had is really, really good coaching.
Ben, hold one second. I need Will. I know you got to get going.
Yeah.
Let people know how they can follow you and keep up with you. And also, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We absolutely mean it, just like Ben and everybody. But they want to follow you. I love your candor, your sincerity. And again, you'd make a great attorney. I just know a lot of attorneys. You're always prepared, and you got a great show and a great message. I love it.
Yeah, I always follow me on Twitter at Will, WIL, Gunter, GUNTER. And of course, we got an app, 1075thegame.com or 1075thegame.com here in Columbia, or you can go to your app store. And if you're ever driving through the state, we're on in Columbia, 1075 the game, on in Florence, 100.3 the game, and in Myrtle Beach, 100.5 in Florence, 100.3 in Myrtle Beach. I'll actually be in Myrtle Beach on Thursday with the Heisman Trophy hanging out at Grand Strand Nissan. So we got a lot going, man. Football season's the busy time of the year, right?
Tough place to be, Myrtle Beach. Wow. Have fun.
Y'all take care.
All right, you too. All right, Ben, as you were saying, I didn't mean to interrupt. I knew Ben that Will had to get going, but keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, when you talk about like the young man in Texas who was told, I made a big. I think these young people need to stop watching people like LeBron James. They need to stop, because you're not that. Like, and I get what we aspire to be, but when LeBron James said, "I'm going to take my talents to Miami," he was already LeBron. People trying to see where is he going to go next, right? Because he had been from Akron, get drafted by Cleveland. You're not going to reinvent the wheel. I mean, and Maurice Clarett is one of the best stories in college football for what he did at Ohio State. Winning the national championship, but he thought he was going to reshape the National Football League as far as like guys being able to come out early. And the NFL let him think that he was going to do it, and then they said, "Nope, we're not going to do it. You're not going to. You're a 5-star running back in Texas. Do you know how many 5-star running backs in Texas play high school football? You're one of them, not the guy. And the thing is, so what? You're going to skip your senior year of high school. You're going to go to some school. Then you're going to be trying to get an NIL deal that's going to be predicated on you being at that school. You're probably not going to stay because you're not going to start from day one. And you're going to make a big hoopla on social media. And, Marvin Jones is the best. Marvin Jones, for those who don't know, Marvin Jones was the best defensive player at Florida State when Coach Mike Norvell first got the job. When he first got the job, Marvin Jones was the best defensive player. One of the best defensive players in the ACC. Could have went probably first round had he come out early. They had a situation at Florida State that Mike Norvell went out and said, "I spoke to the whole team about everything going on." Marvin Jones comes out and says on social media, he didn't speak to the whole team. He's not telling the truth. Now, could Marvin Jones have been right? Yeah. You don't go against your head coach. What did Marvin Jones? He went undrafted. Marvin Jones, who was going to be a first-round pick, had he come out, junior year, went undrafted. I spoke to a former Florida State Seminole. The first thing he said was, "Troupe, we shouldn't have done that." What? He said, "You know we don't do that." You know what that's saying? When you get to college, you better fall in line with what that college tradition is. You don't got to like it, but you can win when it comes to trying to. Do I think you should speak out? Yep, but it's how you do it.
Yeah.
You come to a person like Rob Browne or me, and you say, "Hey, man, could you talk about what's going on out here, but don't use my name?" Yeah.
Yes.
Because when you do it, you too young to have to really understand how to answer questions. You too young to really try to bring like a negative flag, over your whole squad. And I think the thing about these young men now is when you talk about 1%, 1 or 2% of all high school athletes get a college scholarship. 1 or 2%. So you wanted that 1 or 2%. You telling me I'm gonna not play my senior year? Or I even mentioned earlier when Will was on, Caleb Williams. Let me tell you something, Caleb Williams. Don't listen to Emmanuel Acho. If you're gonna, because think about this. So I'm trying to win. I'm trying to make the college football playoff. I'm trying to win back-to-back Heisman's. And now that that's out the window, I'm gonna shut it down. So that doesn't make any sense to me for one reason and one reason alone. You play football.
Yeah.
Football. Like people say he couldn't get hurt. He could have been gotten hurt. So I don't like stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that is great stuff, what you just said. I mean, I agree with you. And we're going to take a quick break. And you talk about a culture. It starts from the moment you arrive. The best examples are to look at, let's say, the night you show up on the bus from the airport in Charleston and you've driven through the low country marsh to go to Paris Island. Everybody, my friends that have gone through basic training at Paris Island said, it's all shits and giggles when you're at the airport in Charleston. Everybody's laughing. And then that gray bus pulls up out there on the tarmac and you get on there and you know where you're going. And when you pull up, I did a story one time at Fort Benning. I called it America's New Army. And I was there at they call it the reception station at Sand Hill at Fort Benning. And there was a drill sergeant there who had been a drill instructor at Paris Island, got out of the Marine Corps, came back in and joined the Army. And he was comparing the two. But he said something about Paris Island. The minute that my friend, I remember one of my fraternity brothers, his grades kind of slipped one quarter, a couple of quarters, well, several quarters. And his parents suggested the Marine Corps. So he joined the Marine Reserves. He said, yeah, when we were going through the causeway late at night, and we saw that big sign, that big billboard with the guy in the Smokey the Bear hat going, this is where it all begins. He goes, when they pulled up and those big diesel brakes on that bus, and they pulled up and we sat there idle for a minute. We saw about 8 drill instructors with Smokey the Bear hats. We'd seen that all of our lives. Nobody would say a word. You could hear the guy in the back of the bus, his heart beating. And all of a sudden that drill instructor got on there and he goes, welcome to Paris Island Marine Corps Training Depot. And it was, oh my God, from that point on, and he said, you have exactly 5 seconds to get off my bus. And 3 of them are already gone. Let's go, go, go. Guys were trying to climb out of bus windows and they go, come on, dumbass, get it. And you got to line your feet up. And it's the culture. And they set the tone right there from the beginning. And I remember doing this story and they had the amnesty room and they read off this list. At this time, if you have any marijuana, PCP, angel dust, crack, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, nunchucks, billy clubs, guns, knives, explosives, dynamite, take it in the amnesty room. If after leaving the amnesty room that is still on your person, you will be subject to the military code of justice and will be sent to the brig. Blah, blah. You're like, wow, they don't give you options.
No.
They set the culture. I love what you said. Ben, let's take a quick message from one of my sponsors up in Nashville. We're going to be right back. Love what you're saying. Ben, one of the listeners put up there, one of the viewers, Ben is the Bob Newhart of football. You just make sense and you calm people down, but you're candid. We'll be right back. Ben Troupe, Matt Dean, and Rodney Orr all in hour number 2.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
All right, Rob Browne back here with Ben Troupe and Coach Matt Dean over at Rhodes College in Memphis. We've been having a hell of a discussion about football, accountability, player development, and there's so much that goes into it. And, you know, I think what we're getting down to now is fans can be a little bit crazy. We know that, but you got to develop players. You got to give them the tools. But like I just said before the break, friends of mine and my brother-in-law, 26 years in the Marine Corps, Kurt Ham. I mean, you talk about the mild-mannered, laid back guy. He's laid back as Willie Nelson. I mean, but he's seen things that none of us have ever seen. I can assure you that. Doesn't talk about anything, but he's a warrior from 81 to 07. Ben, from being in the NFL, and someone made a point, Matt, you remember last year when the player for the Bills was injured and it just kind of scared the hell out of everybody. They talk about why these players talk about, the bond and the love they have for one another, and they hug. And after the game, you watch the players from both teams, they're hugging and shaking hands, and they know they're putting their bodies on the line out there. They go through a lot just to be on that field. And it's tough, man, what you do. And Matt, about player development, coaching in men's basketball, coaching women's basketball. The moment they get on your campus, isn't it your job and your assistant's jobs to say, this is our culture, learn how to live within it and thrive in it. And if it's, not for you, we're not going to make ourselves less strong to make you feel at home. You got to raise your bar. We don't lower ours. Is that correct, Coach Matt Dean?
Yeah. Good morning, guys. Great to be back on here. Ben,
you remember when you join this show, it's like pulling out of your driveway. You live in the median on Interstate 95. You got to be doing about 100. So, hey, Matt, how you doing? Let's go.
No.
Anyway, hello.
Couple quick thoughts. First of all, Ben knows this because he's a pro. What those guys go through, there's I don't know if there's any other humans that go through what NFL guys go through in terms of the physicality, the nature of the sport, the injury factor, guys trying to get X amount of years to get pension and insurance benefits and those type of things. And then, you pivot to what Ben's done out of his career. It's just remarkable. He goes from a professional athlete to now a professional media guy. And, you got to have a plan. And that goes back to your roots, your upbringing. We talk about culture. Culture starts from day one in your house when you screw up and how you are, disciplined and how you respond, right? Yep. A great example for me was when I got my first head women's job here at Rhodes, I inherited 2 all-conference guards. First year, very fortunate. My staff was coaching staff of the year. We finished 3rd in a really competitive league. But you know what those happened with those guards? They were seniors. They graduated. So the next year we took a step back and we lost double-digit games. And I think going in with the fans of the SEC and other major conferences, their expectations are unrealistic. I mean, you look at, I think Billy Napier's done a really good job, Ben. And I'd like to hear your opinion on this. I mean, they're 5-2. Obviously, it's a huge week this week. We know that. That's, one of the biggest games you played in your career there. But I just think you got to be realistic. When you start over, I told this to someone the other day, when you're making a decision on getting rid of your coach, right? I mean, at some degree, you got to know when you do that, you are rebuilding. Whether or not you think there's talent in that room, you are rebuilding because someone's going to come in with a different set of expectations, culture norms, whatever you want to call it, guys. And I think, you look at Auburn right now. Yeah, there's frustration. But hell, man, you've got to have a quarterback to win in any college football program. I don't care what any level. And right now they're struggling at that position. Until Hugh gets his guy, they're going to go through some growing pains. And that's why I look at Florida, the way is it Graham Mertz? I mean, he's done a really nice job. You look at his numbers, they are in position, man. I tell you what, Florida State's really had a nice start, but I look at that Florida State game later in the year. It's going to determine whether or not Florida State has a shot to go to the playoffs. Because I think Florida's going in there. I think that game's in Gainesville, Ben. But getting back to the original question, Rob, yeah, man, you got to set your norms, and sometimes you got to cut bait of really good players. I hate to say it. If they don't fit in your rules, you got to let them go, and sometimes that means losing games the first couple of years.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at here. I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. All non-hackers will be weeded out of my beloved Corps. And he goes on. But remember that movie Full Metal Jacket? Ben, Matt, he talked about when he was 17 years old, a freshman at Florida. I was 17. I know where I was. I was a junior in high school. Yeah. And we were all upset at school when they announced that John Bonham, the drummer for Led Zeppelin, had died. That was devastating. Ben at 17 is a freshman at Florida playing for that guy Spurrier.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben, when you went away, I mean, I drove to college by myself. My parents didn't take me. I mean, I've been going to Auburn since I was literally born. I went 2 weeks early. I was so excited and moved into my place because I was working in the sports information office, but I went by myself. What was it like for you when you started down there? And how many times were you challenged just within the first few weeks that you said, this ain't for me, BS, I'm going home, blah, blah, blah? How many times did you want to quit, but you hung in there and you fought your ass off, and you remembered the examples you'd been taught by your parents and your grandparents? I got your book. I got your number. I got your name. Uncommon and Unfinished. It's a great book, Matt. You ought to read this book of Ben's. It's a great book about
I'll buy it
life.
this afternoon.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, when you think about your dad is a badass. Said people knew him, they feared him, they respected him. He was just a big, powerful man. And you talk about your grandparents, but how many times did you want to quit? Did you keep track? Do you remember that?
No, thank God I didn't too. I mean,
yes,
it was a lot. It was a lot because I think Coach Matt just said it though. People don't. There are expectations in life, and there are expectations in sport. And I think the thing is, the hardest thing in sport is they give you unrealistic expectations, but they expect you to meet them. And but the thing is, you're a student all day long, right? And then you're an athlete, But they were trying to get you to supersede like when the coach says, "Listen, man, we set the expectations, y'all drive them." But they set them so high that they said you will not be a perennial low jumper. Low jumpers mean you're gonna meet it. You can step over that. We're gonna make it so high and so unrealistic. We're gonna think to ourselves, how in the world? He said, it's not your job to question what I do, it's your job to do what I say. And they say this all the time. And but they talking to the young, they talking to us youngins that just got there. The upperclassmen, you can tell them to do anything. And no matter what sport, they're gonna do it because they realize, man, there's a part of me that only this school could have pulled out of me. Only this coach could have done it. And our coaches used to give us life, right? They'll say a coach's job is to get you to do something you don't want to do, not can do. You don't want to do this, but I'm gonna make you do it so much that it seems routine. And when you accomplish things that you could never accomplish, that's what happens. It's like it goes one. So when you talk about I respect every single student athlete in college. Everybody's doing this. It don't matter what college you at. People think, oh, they doing something different in Florida than they doing at Rhodes College. Nope. They in different time zones, but that's it. 5 o'clock is 5 o'clock. Running is running. And I think the best teams are player-led. Coaches can only say so much, man. If coaches say, I get tired of saying the same things. I can't push the conversation forward until y'all get this. But when you start talking about what players have become, when these players be like, man, I had this coach, man, stayed on me, but I needed it. It's not like, and the best players, it's true. The best players want to be coached, man. It's like, I don't know who the young man was at Alabama. They was asking him the question about hard coaching. He answered it with a smile. Oh, man, you don't come to Alabama.
Yeah.
He said, I'm listening to what he's saying. I'm not feeling what he's saying. I'm listening to what he's saying. Plus, if I can't handle him, I'm not going to play no way. Most people say, oh, look at how Nick Saban is talking to him. That's coaching. Coaching is not pretty. Listen, coaching, The reason why and this ain't even a male-female thing. The reason why there are more guys coaching, because guys that get coached by women, they're gonna try to manipulate. They're gonna try to say, you don't got to talk to me like the coaches don't care. Male coaches, look, I had Steve Spurrier, I had Ron Zook. Steve Spurrier talk like this. He don't do a lot of yelling. Hey, do this, do that. Ron Zook yells at everybody. He yells at the equipment staff. He yells at the staffers upstairs. He yells at the person parking his car. He yells at his wife. He yells at his kids. He yells at his dog. But the reason why he did that he said, look, man, let's move. Let's go. He'll say, look, man, he always says, you're burning daylight. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And he'll say, we get more done before 10 a.m. than most people do all day. We've gotten more done. But then you go out there in the world and you got to get a job. And you sit down with an interview, right? And the interviewer. And at the end of the interview, they ask you, okay, what is there any question you have for me? And when I say, well, listen, man, whoever your number one employee is, tell them they're about to be number two. And so since I'm going to be your number one employee, what can I do now to prepare myself for when I have my first day? He don't know how to answer that. What did you just say to me? And to him or her, they're thinking, this is what I come from. I come from the fact that I got recruiting classes every year coming in. I got the best player at my position getting recruited every year, and I got to mentor him. So if I'm firm in who I am as a player, I could be mentoring a guy that's going to play over me. But guess what? It's football. That's sport. If Coach Dean says, Troupe, I got this young point guard, I need you to help him. I'm going to do one or two things. I'm going to either say, nope, I'm not going to do it, and I'm not going to play. Or I'm going to say, Coach, what you want from me? Because think about this. If a player is better than me and I'm mentoring him, that respect level, he don't want to go out there now without me. Hey, man. Or if he does, he's out. And that's what I think sport does. People don't get the fact that when Alex Browne, the defensive end, when I first got there, Darryl Lee was the number one defensive end in the country in 2000. You know what he said? He ain't playing over me. Think about this. He goes, oh, I love D-Lee. D-Lee, come over here. Put your hand in the dirt like this. Because this is the thing. When it was 9/11, and back in 9/11, when Michael Strahan goes to the freaking commissioner and say, or he goes to Tom Coughlin and say, you can have if you 5 minutes early, you late and all this, they gonna listen to me. Because I play, coach. I respect you and your rules, and they want a Super Bowl. Yeah. And I'm telling you, when it comes to what these players don't understand is I'd rather have a coach yell at me and scream at me, because when I go out there in the world and get a job, my boss, he'll be like, and he don't get how when he talk to me, it's effective. I said, man, I hear what you're saying. I'm not hearing how you're saying it. I'm hearing what you're saying, right? I said, but here's the thing, right? Yeah, I'm a B. Yep. You're going to get more from me with honey than vinegar. So if you just talk to me, I'm gonna do even. So I'm gonna show him how to be better at what he or she does. But I credit them coaches I had, because they didn't listen, man. They didn't give me an inch. They didn't give me. If I thought I had a good practice, wasn't good enough. Thought I had a good game, wasn't good enough. But at the end of it, when you start talking about this All-American stuff and all that, that's all the runs look, man. That's the coach that did that. Because I believe a coach that guy right there is going to be an All-American. I'm gonna make him that. I believe coaches can do that. That kid right there, I can pull it out of him. Now, they don't do that for everybody. So for a coach to look at me and say, I'm going to make sure that they remember you, I'm going to do that for you. And playing time doesn't do it. How you play him. So I just credit them coaches, because, and Coach Dean know this, the best players can take it. Yeah. Forget how good they are. Forget that. The best players can take anything. It's like this. If a coach in the locker room going, you don't hear nothing. But when the coach walks out, the player goes, why y'all got him acting like that, man? See? Because coaches get the vent, man. They got a lot going on. They got a wife and kids at home that they don't see. They got the house that they don't even know where the light switches are, because they never at home, right? They only wear team memorabilia. So when players start saying, I'm going to do it for coach, because you realize he did it for me. This dude recruited me, gave me a scholarship, gave me playing time, deals with my nonsense, understands that I like to play video games. I'm not the most attentive, and he stuck with me. So when I go out there on Saturday, when coach say, hey, Ben, we're going to play Georgia. We're going to put you on the backside. That's safety. What he's going to do, it's going to be a one-man route. It's going to be you and the safety. He's going to grab your left arm. What you going to do? I said, I'm going to reach out there and catch it with one hand. Go back to 2003. It's the same play. He grabs my left arm. I catch it. It's not – I made the decision before the play, because he says, whenever you decide, you're a hard man to deal with. And I think that's all culture does, man. Because when when people go, y'all football players, y'all think y'all can change the world. No, bro. You just can't stop me from trying, though. Don't tell me I can't because you scared to try. That's what football teaches you, because I got Michael Strahan one week. I got Troy Polamalu next week. You think I'm caring about meeting a deadline? I can meet a deadline because I got to go. I think these people don't get the fact that Ed Reed is a bad man. Brian Urlacher is a bad man. And Zach Thomas finally got in the Hall of Fame. These are guys I went up against. Forget the game. I got open on Zach. I got open on Troy. They go, what? Yeah, man, nobody gets open on them. So when I meet them, I get to say, hey, Brian Douglas, hey, Troy Polamalu, hey, Ed Reed told me great play on a fake punt. Ed Reed complimented me. So for me, being where you want to work at, I can work anywhere. Now, you don't want me working the places that actually the world needs. Now, you don't want me on the power grid. You don't want me on that. If you see me on the power line, live somewhere else. You don't want me. But as far as like, who could I work for? I could work for anybody. Because tell me what it is. Tell me what you want, and I'm going to supersede it. That's what football. I'm going to take what you want and give. If you ask me for 10,000, I bring you back 20. You ain't going to say why you brought me back 20. I'm going to say that's my normal. So I credit the coaches for all that stuff, man. All that.
I love what he just said, Matt. Makes sense. And address that. And also Paul in Memphis, Oregon update. What Tyler and the guys in the suit of the week, the uniform of the week are doing out there. But it's college football, man. Just what he said. I mean, you're a coach. Let's break that down.
Well, the first analogy is, man, I would have loved to coach Ben Troupe. I mean, just listen to Ben and his passion. Because, one of the things, Ben, and this is kind of an old saying, but like when I stop getting on your ass, there's a problem because I stopped caring about you, right?
That's right.
The power and belief is important, and confidence is so important. The fact that a coach can motivate a young man or young woman to do things they didn't think they could do, and then have like one of the things. This is a really when I watch players play in the stands sometimes, Ben, and at the end of the game, I see a player I'm recruiting go up there and take some of those cups on the floor and throw them in the trash can. I'm gonna tell you what, man, that checks the box for me. You still got to be able to dribble, pass, shoot, all those other things. Don't get me wrong, but I'm looking for character. I'm looking for someone that wants to leave it better than they found it. Conversely, I've had these conversations with kids and parents where they say, "Yeah, we lost that game. Yeah, the coach didn't really have a good game plan." I'm like, "Oh, so you're okay to criticize your coach in front of me? Well, what do you think you think I'm a dummy? As soon as we lose the game, you're going to be criticizing me. I don't want that. I want someone like Ben Troupe that's going to say, Coach, what do we need to do to get an extra yard? What do we need to do to get that ball in the basket with 10 seconds to go? I want that." And I think, and I don't know this for a fact at the highest level because I coached in my lane for a long time, but when I recruited someone, yes, they had to be talented on the floor athletically, but equally and more so important to me was that other side of the human being. And if I get enough human beings like Ben Troupe in a position room or a group or a team, I'm going to win some damn football games. That's number one.
Yeah.
Quickly on the Oregon update, another big game going on the road to Utah. I watched Utah go into USC last week with the quarterback I hadn't really heard of because, their star quarterback is out for the season.
Cam Rising. I mean, is he going to come back next year? What are we hearing?
I don't know, but honestly, he got hurt in the Rose Bowl, so it was going to be kind of like a really quick return regardless. But Utah, I was talking to my son last night. Utah does so many good things, man. They tackle well. They don't turn it over. They play really good defense in the run game. They're complimentary. They have good special teams. Their crowd's going to be intense. Florida went down there the first game of the year, tough environment. What happened to Florida in the first 10 minutes? That's where they lost the game. Some of the special team gaffes and a turnover here or there. But if you look at the last 50 minutes of the game, Florida outplayed Utah. You got to be ready from the start to win at Utah. You got to, it's funny because a lot of people like to defer and take the ball and start second half. I personally think it against a team like Utah with the crowd, get the ball, go down there. Even if you don't score, let's flip the field. Let's get some field position. Let's get them inside their 20, right? Because I think Kyle Whittingham is one of the best coaches in America. You talk about someone that I think has culture. Because they're not getting 5 stars, Ben, at Utah. But I tell you what,
they don't need them. They got a 5-star coach. And that's the thing too, right? I guarantee you this. You know how long it took me to realize I could talk to my coach? Like I could talk to him. Like because as players, That's not in the brochure when you're getting recruited. But
Right.
then you knock on the door, and I say, Coach, man, a lot of players think they can't talk to you. He said, well, they made that up. What?
Yeah.
They made that up.
That's right.
Like, think about it. I'm thinking I'm saying something. Oh, I'm finna get it. No, you made that up. He goes, have you ever thought I want you to talk to me, but if I approach you, it's not natural. When you approach me, it is. When you
Right.
approach me to talk to me, he said, but let me tell you something. Just because we can talk, we're not equals now. And you want to coach it. We're not equal. Are you equal with your dad? Nope. Are you equal with your mom? Nope. We're not equals. So while I can talk to you as a young man, I'm gonna coach you hard. And I think that's the part is when it comes to play. The best relationships in life are gonna be that of players and coaches.
Yeah.
Because when you watching it, you don't know what you're looking at. Look at the way he talks. You can't listen. Yes, that guy screaming at him, or he just grabbed him. No, coaches treat you according to who you are. They're the best body language evaluators on the planet because all they do is watch you. They'll say, "I can tell coming out the hood if you believe in the play." Just looking at you. But when you go back to it, it takes a special individual to be a coach, man. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of personality because you got over the position coaches, training staff, equipment men, parents, alumni, and then you got the players. But coaches and players are family members. Think about how you treat your family members. There are family members that you cannot stand, but you ain't gonna let nobody else say nothing about them. So you shouldn't be that person. So when somebody goes, "Man, your coach ain't that smart. He recruited me." Your coach didn't call the right play because we didn't run it right. When I was in college, the coach said, "If y'all go out there and execute, I could call anything. The play could be called anything. What? I could say, go out there and make it work. But we give y'all plays. And y'all showed us during the week, right? The playbook is this thick. You're only using that much of it. And that's every even Sean McVay, even Mike McDaniel down there in Miami, they use it this much because I think like you said, the best players do the simple things excellent. They make the simple look so excellent. And that's why when you, especially in basketball, right? Basketball, you need certain things. You need guys that can shoot free throws and get rebounds. Listen, can you shoot free throws? Yeah. Can you get rebounds? Yeah. Do you want to defend? Because if you got those three things, because what you think the game gonna come down to? Free throws, right? Defending, and rebounds. Because at the end of the game, somebody said, "Man, I had 26, and you got 2 assists. You got no." And football is the same way, right? If we up by 5, can we run the 4-minute offense? If we down by 3, can we get a stop on defense? It's football. All that cute stuff happened in quarter 1, 2, 3, and the beginning of the 4th. When it's about 5 minutes left, watch how honest football get. You ain't doing no cute stuff. Yeah. And that's why Tom Brady was the best quarterback because he goes, "Dude, we got to run the ball or throw the ball. I'm gonna do whatever." Oh, and I won a Super Bowl since I left New England. They talking about getting rid of Bill Belichick because they don't see no future. And it's not like Bill Belichick is the youngest guy in the world, but I just think that when you look at sports in general, it's like what Coach Dean just said. You give me 5 players that will do what I tell them to do. Like, don't nobody want to play Virginia because that's defense. That game's gonna be 52-46.
Only better.
And they're gonna play full court. Who wants to? They checking me full court, but Virginia only recruiting guys that want to defend. Forget shooters. Can you defend? My nephew plays basketball and he plays football. He was in a championship basketball game. I said, "Boy, go out there and defend." They won the game. He said, "Uncle, I just went out there and defend." I said, "Because nobody really wants to check nobody." That's right. Gary Paytons of the world, they dinosaurs. Guys like I scored 40 because the guy on you can't listen. You can't guard. The problem is the guy you was guarding. He had 40. So if he had 40, the guy you ain't done nothing. I want the John Stocktons of the world. I want the Gary Paytons of the world. I want the Ben Wallaces of the world. The Dennis Rodman. I want guys to say, "I don't care about no scoring, bro. Can I get a stop?" So I think that's where we are now in sports is making sure these players know before you can have a role. You have to be given one. They have to give you one. You got to embrace it. And if you embrace it, you got a shot to play for 4 years. And quit worrying about the accolades at the end because the best players in the world do not get recognized.
That's true.
Yeah, most of them don't. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, and you got to learn to, Matt, this, and Ben, you got to learn that you'll get all the success you want in life as long as you don't mind who gets the credit. You can't have people that always, have to get the credit. Well, they're, again, find out who the quitters are by pushing the players with tough practices. Don't wait until game day. Matt, that's what you got to do. I mean, and Rodney Orr is going to be on here in just a minute. We're going to have fun talking with him, Tighter Insider. But, Matt, I'm going to throw this one at you. I think Nick Saban's having more fun coaching this year than he's had in a long time. He's got Kevin Steele running the defense. I think he's very comfortable. This is the third time he's had him on his staff. And Kevin's son has been with Nick Saban for 3 years before Kevin came back to Alabama. And I just think, Matt, as a coach, you're doing your job right when players are doing hard workouts on their own without having to be yelled at, aren't you?
Yeah, there's no question. There's an old saying about defense, and particularly what Ben hit on the head in basketball. Defense is effort level, guys. It's not talent. It is effort. How hard do you want to play? Do I want to get over a ball screen? Do I want to put a body on a bigger person for 32, 40 minutes, whatever the length of the game is, right? How hard I want to do something. And that requires being really good physical condition. There's no doubt about that. But how hard do I want to go? And most of these athletes are in great physical condition. Now, you talked about Saban. It was interesting. That first half, it's 20-7, right? And it's not a fluke. The game ends up 34-20. Tennessee doesn't score in the second half. Whatever adjustments Kevin Steele made, Ben, I wasn't watching that game because I had the Oregon game on. But they didn't score in the second half, and Tennessee controlled and dominated the first half. It's a 4-quarter game. Saban is having fun. Heck, he put a cigar in his mouth after the game with the national TV reporter and just biting on it. I wasn't smoking it. But it's like you can see Saban enjoys this team because they have buy-in. And he's allowing – those kids are allowing him to coach. I'll say one more thing about Alabama. Like last night, I'm watching Miami in Philadelphia. It may have been Sunday night. And I see Tua and I see Jalen Hurts. And they're two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And I'm like, my God, they're on the same team in Alabama.
With Mac Jones.
With Mac Jones, who came back and beat Josh Allen.
Came behind him.
Yeah, it's crazy. Because when Tua and Jalen left, and remember Jalen transferred to Oklahoma after that. He helped them when Tua got hurt, win the next championship. He had a great year at Oklahoma, and I think that proved to everybody, this dude's the guy. Yep. And everybo's talking about the brotherly shove, the tush push. Well, you know what it is? That's Jalen Hurts' 600-pound squat rack, right, Ben? Yep. I mean, he's not scared, man. I would love to have Jalen Hurts as my quarterback. I mean, I'm just telling you, the guy is a star. He's a team guy. Every interview he doesn't say a bad thing. And I think, Ben, he was coached by his dad in high school, I believe.
He was coached by his dad. Listen. Jalen Hurts is smooth. He's simply smooth, and he holds court when they ask him, "Hey, Jalen, man, when I look at the way you play football or whatever, what got you so prepared to go out there and win games?" He said, "Losing." That's how he said, "Losing." And the thing is, listen, people, if we question Nick Saban as a coach, I question Nick Saban said, "I've won everywhere there is. I only get to show who I really am when I don't have the horses you think I'm used to having." Right? Yeah. I've ran the ball. I've done it through the passing game. Jalen Hurts was 26-2, and I benched him for Tua. He was 26-2. But I think the thing is in coaching is, coaches, I always ask the coaches this. I'm going to ask you this, Coach Matt. What makes a coach, because you guys coach a long time. What do you do before the season? Say, all right, I've done it. My resume is what my resume is. But I ain't living off who I used to be. That's why I'm coming back. What makes Matt Dean get up and say, "Hey, man, I'm going to go back out there. I'm going to do it again." And I'm not necessarily trying to prove the doubters wrong. I'm trying to prove myself right.
Ben, a lot of people preseason, you lose Bryce Young, number 1 pick overall. Was Will Anderson 3 or 4? I mean, he was in the top 5. I don't remember.
4. Three.
Okay. Yeah. And then, but Saban knows, man, I got these top 5 recruiting classes, guys just chomping at the bit to get exposure, to get videotape so they can be the next Will Anderson, so they can be the next Bryce Young. Saban knows he's got dudes. And when you got great players as a coach and you're that great of a coach, you're going to find a way to win. Everybody after the Texas game wrote them off. Well, you know what? Right now, they're 7-1 in 2 weeks. That LSU game is going to determine who wins the West. It's going to be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. Hey, let me hold on a second. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back. Great discussion on what's going on in college football coaching. the making, the breaking, what it takes behind the scenes. What you don't know is what you should know. We're going to talk more about it after this commercial break on Sidelines.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Okay, Rob Browne back here with you. I guess Ben had to jump off. We've lost him here. But anyway, hopefully Rodney Orr is going to join us here in just a moment and continue. I'm looking. I really want to get into it with Rodney. And here he is. Rodney, we've been talking about it, and I think, welcome to the show. Always love having you on here. We've got about 23 minutes left. It looks to me like Nick Saban's having fun coaching. He's really getting involved, and you can see, I think more than I have seen in a long time, his handprints all over this team. I think he's comfortable with Kevin Steele running the defense. That would make me comfortable if I'm a head coach, but you're seeing Alabama just grind it out, and to borrow that term that I like to use, they're finding excuses to win every week.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, again, it was a kind of the similar pattern that we've seen. I guess the way this team has developed is it's playing well in one half and not so well in the other, or not so well in the first half and much better in the second half, as was the case in this game against Tennessee. But they've got a really good competitive spirit. I think this team does. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I think it's some things that we haven't seen the last couple of years. Just the way they continue to, as you use the word, grind. I mean, it is pretty amazing, because I don't think it looked really good at halftime in this last game against Tennessee. But that competitive spirit that they had, they came out in the second half right off the bat. They make two big plays. Jace McClellan, a 29-yard run, then the touchdown pass, 46 yards to Isaiah Bond, and all of a sudden, Tennessee's flat-footed and Alabama's got a lot of momentum. But that's kind of the way this team has played. It's been up and down.
It really has been. But when you look at it, and Matt Dean is on with us, this team, they don't have they're not going to have a 1,500-yard rusher. They're not going to have a John Mechie, Jamison Williams punch with 176 catches and 21 touchdowns at wide receiver. But what they've got is a team that just, they don't quit. And Matt, as a coach, you got to love that. And Rodney, it. You said it all spring and summer. Don't be surprised if Alabama doesn't look a lot like Alabama 2015, 2016. And that's what you're 2017. That's what this team looks like. But then again, they don't have Derrick Henry back there either.
Yeah, no, it's a team. I mean, they're playing as a team. I mean, defensively, this is the best defense they've had since 2017, in my opinion. It's better than the national championship team of 2020, defensively, in my opinion. This is a team that defensively, I do believe that it's capable of winning an SEC championship, a national championship. And again, I'm speaking specifically about their defense. I think their main issue is consistently playing well on offense. I think that's the big key. I think the offensive line is developing. It's played a little better in this last game. I think they're run blocking better. I do think the emergence of Jaden Roberts at right guard has been really big for this offensive line. He's a big, strong, powerful guy. He's doing an excellent job. And I think Caden Proctor probably played a little bit better in this last game. So I think those things are developing a little bit. I think Milroe is, again, he's hit and miss, but he makes plays when he has to. And so hopefully he continues to gain confidence, and maybe the offense can develop some more consistency.
Matt?
Yeah, Rodney's spot on. Obviously, he's there. He knows the inside scoop. One of the things I will tell you, I noticed a lot of little things. When the A&M game was going on, they trailed. They came back, and what I'll tell you a thing that really struck me as a positive for Alabama. When they had that field goal block, right? They returned it for an apparent touchdown. Then it got called back, even though they retained the ball, and I'm not sure what they did after it, Rodney. But there was an illegal block downfield, right? And I saw a clip of one of the players getting on the player that made the illegal block, and I'm like, you know what? That's just accountability. That's an extension of the coaching staff on the field. Their defense is connected. Just because they were down 2 touchdowns or 13 and a half didn't bother them a bit. I think actually the Texas loss earlier in the year helped Saban's message in the locker room. Sometimes as a coach, you need that moment to say, hey, look, I told you so. And now, it sets up, one of the comments earlier is, in 2 weeks in Tuscaloosa, in my opinion, I know there's games to be played, but that is the pivotal game for the SEC West. And if they win that game, it would not shock me if they won the SEC championship game either, because right now with Bauer's situation with his health at Georgia, we're going to have to see what Georgia's like without him. I know they're very talented. I know they're the number 1 team in the country right now, but he's a big part of that offense. And also, I'm going to tell you what's interesting. The East has gotten a little bit better with Missouri at 7-1 too. So don't discount. Georgia still has a little bit of a tough road to hoe, but I think right now Bama is just an incredible team. It's a collection of very talented players that are buying in. You mentioned Caden Proctor. He's from my home state of Iowa. He had committed to the Hawkeyes and obviously ended up with Alabama. He's a true freshman, I believe, Rodney, and he's out there every game getting better, and he's a mammoth of a man. He reminds me of Tristan Wirfs, who played for Iowa, who's now with Tampa Bay and on that Super Bowl team when Tom Brady's the quarterback. So I think they have a lot of pieces. Young guys are getting better every day. They're becoming sophomores quickly.
No, I agree. Yeah, those are some really good comments. And Deontay Lawson, you're right. He did kind of take that leadership role on the field on that when he kind of got on to Dallas Turner a little bit. That was a good sign. And that is a little thing that, and I say it's a little thing. What I mean, it's actually a big thing, but it's a little thing to people that are just observing. You don't notice sometimes, but it's something that I think this defense has that it hasn't had. And I'm talking about probably, to be frank with you, since Jeremy Pruitt left as a defensive coordinator in 2017 after that 17 season. But with all that said, that's kind of a credit to Kevin Steele. The job he's done, as Rob's pointed out, has been really, really good. And there's a lot of things going on. I think one thing too about this team, it's sometimes, a lot of these teams are very, very similar in terms of maybe talent or ability, whatever it is, but it's a mindset. And I like the mindset of this team right now. I think it's really good. If you'd asked me last week going into the Tennessee game, I'd have said, well, okay, they might beat Tennessee, but I just don't see them hanging with LSU because of this explosive offense. I don't know if they can hold Jaden Daniels and that offense down enough to allow the Alabama offense to score enough, because they have not put up a ton of points. But right now, I'm beginning to feel better or more confident about Alabama in that game. So we'll see. It is a team that has a lot of potential.
It is. And I look and see, you look at the remaining schedule that Alabama has. I mean, it's out there. Everything's in front of them, but they've got to play. They got a week off. They got LSU, and then Kentucky and Lexington, Chattanooga, and Auburn on the road. And again, you look out and you say, well, golly, all these games are every week it's something different. You're dealing with 18 to 23-year-olds. Alabama, Jalen Milroe, he's a different quarterback, obviously, than Bryce Young. It looks to me like he's beginning to grasp what Tommy Rees wants him to do. And as he's getting more comfortable, I think he's cutting down on the mistakes a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tommy Rees has probably got some undue criticism to me. I think he's done a really, really good job. I think, he's brought this offense along. They were really struggling earlier, and they have still struggles. But, I think he's pieced things together pretty well. And, I think, too, you mentioned Milroe and the mistakes. Actually, in the first half, he threw that interception in the back of the end zone, and that wasn't necessarily a bad throw. I mean, it hit Burton in the shoulder pad, but it was a tough throw and tough catch to try to make. But then he turned the ball over when he fumbled, was hit from the backside. Those are kind of the things that you in a big game obviously can make the difference, but they've been able to overcome some of those things. So, but I do think Tommy Rees is doing a really good job, even though a lot of people have criticized him, because anytime you have a work in progress on the offensive line and at quarterback, that makes it really tough on play calling. I mean, it's not like these guys can't just draw up plays that are going to magically work. It takes execution. And if there's not the execution there, the plays can look really bad. And let me just say this real quick. Somebody, and this was on TighterInsider.com, was talking about, they need to get more creative in the play calling like they did in the second half against Tennessee. Well, you know what? The first time Alabama possessed the ball, the first play, they turn around and they hand the ball off right up the middle, and Jason McClellan goes about 30 yards. How creative is that? It isn't about creativity. It was about execution. And I think that's the one thing that's going to be important for this offense.
Yeah, Matt, as a coach, what he just said, you can draw up all the good plays you want, but players have got to execute, and they got to trust one another.
Yeah, and I think what Saban's so masterful at is he's always, communicated to his guys, it's a 60-minute game. So when you get down 2 touchdowns at home, or you got down earlier at Kyle Field in a very tough environment, his guys don't panic. As a matter of fact, they are so resilient that they just have that mentality that we're going to play for 4 quarters, and eventually we're going to win out. If we keep hitting that hole and we're going to break a big one, I thought some of the catches that Burton made, I'm going back to the A&M game when they trailed, were just big-time NFL catches. Milroe made a couple gutsy throws in the end zone in that game. And I think that game really, to me, convinced me that, okay, they won in a really tough environment, and then they come back and they take care of Tennessee after trailing by 2 touchdowns. Their resiliency is there. I just like their makeup. Getting to the LSU game, I know it's next week, but I like the fact that game is played in Tuscaloosa. When you are maybe not the flashiest of all-stars, it's a lot easier to win those type of games when you have your fans, and sometimes the crowd noise is affecting the opposing team's offensive line. You get some false starts, you get some jumps, some movement. Those little things matter, and I think that's going to be. I agree, Rodney. Coming into the Tennessee game, there's probably still a little bit of a doubt, but that second half of Tennessee, that's just got to bode well for them going into LSU, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it gives them a lot of momentum. I think it gives them a lot of confidence, the way they played, the way they came back. And I think they're hearing, a lot of these players are also hearing that they've been counted out a little bit, obviously after the Texas game. But I still think that they've heard people say, when they get to LSU, you just wait. They're not going to be able to slow down Jaden Daniels. But they also remember last year, too. I mean, that again, I don't know how much you really focus on that, but I mean that was a game that. Sure. Let me tell you, what I've heard, and again, it's locked down over there. Let's be clear; they don't let people roam around and kind of, check out everything over there. We don't practice. We don't even have a media viewing period anymore, so it's locked down. But last year, last week, they had a reel in the football facility, and it just played over and over and over again. And it was the kick from the Tennessee game last year, that knuckleball that made it through, and the celebration after. So the players kept seeing that over and over and over again. And I'm sure they're going to see something as it relates to LSU as well to kind of get their attention.
Yeah, that game, LSU's getting better offensively. Their defense, Pete Jenkins is doing what he can to try to fix the defensive line. But everybody's going to be talking about that game. I know we got Georgia, Florida this week, and other games, but that game is going to be huge. And Ole Miss is out there too. If they win out and things, look, there's a lot of possibilities for who goes to Atlanta from the West. The East, I think it's pretty solid conclusion that Georgia will be representing that team.
Yeah.
Rodney, with Alabama right now, and got a question on here from somebody was asking if y'all would, both of y'all, and I'll start with you, Rodney, and then Matt, give us your top 4 for the CFP. I know the first rankings will come out a week from today from Mr. Bill Hancock and the folks out there at the College Football Playoff Committee in Dallas. But you've got a top 4 right now. Let's hear it.
Well, I'll let Matt go first because I really so focused on Alabama, I'm not sure I could pick a top 4.
And this is obviously a fluid conversation because
very fluid.
We're going to have some teams that may be in my top 4 that still have to play, which will eliminate the loser. But right now, I've changed my mind on Ohio State. They've won at Notre Dame, who just punished USC, and they've beaten a really good Penn State team who was a top 7 team. So I got Ohio State 1. I got Georgia 2. Part of that is because I think, we don't know the status of Bowers moving forward, right? And that's a big piece of their arsenal. I got Michigan 3, but that Ohio State-Michigan game is going to, the winner is going to be in their top 4. And I got 4. I got Oklahoma right now, even though I will tell you I was not impressed with their victory over UCF, a very mediocre UCF team who had a 2-point conversion to basically tie that game late in the football game that went awry. But lurking on 4, I honestly think Washington is still the Pac-12 has some really good football this year, so I would have Washington just outside the 4.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I would say this too, Washington, that their coach DeBoer, he has done an incredible job, not just there, but I think he's coached in, I think his record there is like 18-2 or something already. And he's like 98-11 overall in his career. So he's done a really, really good job there.
And look at the top 4 next year when we have a 12-team playoff.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be crazy because when you're adding, and you see my SEC set that Barnwood Brenda made for me. She can make them for you, folks, if you want one. Hand carve that one out of wood. But the biggest thing on there is Texas. It's huge. It's big orange on the map. And Oklahoma, they're coming in the league. Rodney, I think they'll catch on quickly when they get into this league. I think Steve Sarkisian's starting to hit his stride at Texas, and Brent Venables' second year at Oklahoma. It's just going to be more competitive, but the programs with the strong cultures will get through it, and they'll continue to win. I don't think we're going to see, Alabama suddenly stop winning. I think, if you're an Auburn fan, you're like, okay, Hugh Freeze will promise himself he will never be caught in this quarterback death valley again. I've never seen him in his career. Every school's got something they got to overcome. Jalen Milroe, what's the future for him? And Ty Simpson, Tyler Buckner. It's you say it's a crowded quarterback room, but you got one, and the other 2 guys just seem like they're just out there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. It's like you said, we'll see. I mean, obviously, Ty Simpson and Buckner probably will have some decisions to make after the season. And then, and of course, you don't know how the season's going to play out yet. I mean, a lot of things can happen still that could, one of those guys could have to come in and play, and it could change the dynamic of everything. You never know how things are going to play out. that's the real thing that makes it difficult. As you look forward, I think Dylan Lonergan is a really outstanding true freshman that they have that hasn't played, but he's a guy that I know that there is a lot of buzz over there about his potential. And then also you got Julian Sayin coming in, the great freshman that for next year that will be that's from California. Of course, now he probably won't be ready to go, but next year. So we'll see how all that, kind of plays out. And, you mentioned Texas, by the way. I thought that, again, we said this on one of your earlier shows, Rob, maybe back in the summer, that Texas was probably catching Alabama at the best time for Texas. That Alabama was still a very, very developmental team right then. And Texas was really good. They had a lot of returning players. They had Quinn Ewers at quarterback and all of his experience. And you almost wonder now if Texas is kind of peaked a little bit. They lost Oklahoma. They won in kind of a controversial fashion against Houston this past weekend. And now all of a sudden, you've got Quinn Ewers shelved for a few weeks at least with this shoulder injury. So that could be a team, that just a few weeks ago, people were saying national championship. They were saying a definite college playoff team. And now all of a sudden, they could be facing another couple of losses this year.
Yeah. Matt?
Hey, I have to make an amendment, and this is on me. I got to bump Oklahoma out of my top 4 and put in Florida State. I don't know why I forgot about Florida State. They had an incredible win week 1 against we think the best 2-loss team in America, probably in LSU, right? So I would put in LSU there I would put in Florida State there at 4. The reason I may not put them above Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, I think besides that win, I don't know, what else, like they barely beat a Boston College team on the road. They did end up playing a really solid fourth quarter and taking care of Duke at home, but I think they have a couple challenges coming up. And I think the Florida game we mentioned earlier in the segment is going to be really interesting for them. If they can beat Florida and get to that ACC championship game, they also have to play Miami without getting a loss, then I think they have a great chance to be in the Final Four. So kudos to Mike Norvell. Cooper Williams, a family friend, is on that staff. He played at Christian Brothers High School.
Yeah.
He played at Memphis for Coach Norvell. Florida State is obviously a top 4 program right now. That's on me. My amendment.
Cooper went to St. Louis Catholic School in Memphis with my daughter, Hallie. Great kid. I mean, his dad, Tommy, great people. Hey, we're about out of time. This is the May Veterinary Clinic, Tuscaloosa, Northport. 2 locations, open since 1964. Dr. Wayne May got it all started. Dr. Waller May, Dr. Guy May, and there are other doctors on the staff, all the assistants, the techs, everybody. Continue this great tradition. They have a dog and daycare facility, dog and cat daycare facility. Even has its own pool outside and connecting cat condos. Open every day of the week. On Sundays, delivery and pickup only, drop off, pickup only at Camp May for your dogs and cats, 3 to 5 p.m. Check them out on the website, mayveterinaryclinic.com. Simply the best. Rodney, tell people how they can follow you. We'll tag you out, and then Matt, do the same, and we're out of here. Most often we see the face of Christ, and the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Hey, folks, act like it. Turn off the news and turn us on.
Yeah, it's titerinsider.com. It's only $48 a year for you Alabama fans out there. It's you can get instant access with your credit card if you prefer. There is an address there on titerinsider.com to send a check, and it gives you all our premium information, but also our All Sports Forum. That's our community of Alabama fans, which we have a great community, a lot of exchange, a lot of information, a lot of opinions. It's very similar to, what you discuss here. Constantly going on titerinsider.com.
Hey, great stuff. Matt?
Yeah, at Dino Hoops 44. You can follow the links at rhodeslinks.edu. Also, working on the book, and when I get that done next year, Rob, I hope to show it off on our audience. But
hell yeah,
always a pleasure to be on.
Hey, always thanks everybody for listening, for watching, and go out and do something great. Help people out, make a difference. We're out of here. Got a great show in store for you tomorrow. We'll see you then.